Hello, dear viewers. Today I'm going to be talking about something not part of my schedule, that is Henry Kissinger and his death. I'm going to discuss how I view his legacy and career from a nationalist perspective. Spoiler alert, I have a very negative view about him. Let's begin. Hello, welcome to Global Nationalism. I support nationalism in my country, India, and in all countries around the globe. Today, I'm going to be talking about the death of Henry Kissinger and how I view his career as a nationalist. Henry Kissinger was the Secretary of State for the United States from 1969 to 1977 and served under different presidents. He has also became an national security advisor and was also an informal advisor to successive administrations until and including, I think, the current President Biden administration. He, I have a very negative view of him. I think he was a globalist. I don't think he was a nationalist. I think he was very much focused on imperialism rather than focusing on what was good for the homeland, the native homeland of America. So yeah, I'll talk about all that in the coming sections. Let's get started. So Henry Kissinger has died at the age of 100, and he played a pivotal role in U.S. foreign policy during the Cold War. He was America's top diplomat and national security advisor during the Nixon and Ford administrations, and he continued to be consulted, as I said. He is known for his realpolitik style. Realpolitik means politics without any morality or sentiment and purely based on self interest. Now, my argument is that he was not acting in America's national interest, but was actually being a globalist. But from a right wing point of view, let me continue. Over the years, he was subject to scathing criticisms with his over his policy with the Soviet Union. So here I'll talk about what he did. In 1969, President Nixon appointed him as National Security Advisor, and he also became the Secretary of State in 1969 as well. During this time, the U.S. was involved in the Vietnam War, and it was in his term that the U.S. ended its involvement in the Vietnam War. He also helped Nixon open up relations with China to bring it out of the sphere of the Soviet Union. He brought about a cessation of hostilities in 1973, Yom Kippur War, and so yeah, the 70s were a busy time for him, like a decade-defining moment for him in his career. And Isaac Herzog, the president of Israel, which is currently at war with Hamas, paid tribute to Kissinger's work on the peace agreement with Egypt. And so during the Vietnam War, he also got involved with Cambodia. While negotiating with North Vietnam, Kissinger approved a campaign against Cambodia, which was at that time neutral. His campaign led to the dropping of more than 2 million tons of bombs on Cambodia and also sending in troops of thousands of ground troops in an effort to deprive the communists of troops and supplies. More than 50,000 civilians died in the raids and millions were displaced. Yeah, this is just unnecessary and terrible, like a evil thing to do. A country that was neutral. Yes, Cambodia had been taken over by the Khmer Rouge, and but that isn't an attack on the United States. That is an attack on their own people. And as a nationalist, I would want a nation to be independent, and including when it commits crimes against its own people, other countries shouldn't interfere. They should just make sure that they aren't affected unless they have some ethnic or nationalistic or religious ties to the people being affected. Then I can see an argument for nationally being involved. But the US had no connection to the people of Cambodia, so I had no responsibility to them. This just caused the needless deaths of 50,000 civilians. And ironically, in 1973, he was awarded a Nobel Peace Prize alongside North Vietnam's Lee Duc Tho. Lee Duc Tho refused to accept the award. They both won it after negotiating the Paris Peace Accords to end the US involvement in the Vietnam War. But this peace ended quickly because the war continued. And now let me talk about, and then what else did he do on the global stage? He facilitated genocides in East Timor and Bangladesh, which I'll get into later when I talk about India's relationship with him. He accelerated civil wars in southern Africa and supported coups and death squads throughout Latin America. He had the blood of at least 3 million people on his hands. That is half the number of Jews that Adolf Hitler killed. Why is he feted by successive American administrations? Even Trump got cozy with him and sought his advice. Was an evil man, a murderous tyrant who killed millions of people. We should not be celebrating this person at all, in no capacity. And uh, he dropped 9 billion pounds of munitions on Indochina during his tenure. And uh, in Latin America, he and Nixon plotted to overturn the democratic election of Chile's socialist president Salvador Allende. This is imperialism. I am a capitalist. I believe capitalism is a better policy than socialism. But if a country elects a socialist, I do not want my country or any other country to interfere in their politics and to get a capitalist elected. That is completely against national independence and sovereignty. And uh, this involved he supervised covert operations such as the botched kidnapping of Chilean General Rennie Schneider to destabilize Chile and prompt a military coup. And when Pinochet took over, he complimented him. And when he went on to kill thousands of Chileans, he didn't criticize him. In Argentina, Kissinger gave another green light, this time to a terror campaign of torture, forced disappearances, and murder by a military junta that overthrew President Isabel Perón. And during a June 1976 meeting, Kissinger told the junta's foreign minister, Cesar Augusto Guzzetti, if there are things that have to be done, you should do them quickly. The so-called dirty war that followed claimed the lives of an estimated 30,000 Argentine civilians. This man was a monster. Wherever he went, he basically slaughtered people. He had no value for human life. And and let me talk about what he did during the 1971 in India, Pakistan, or Bangladesh War of Independence. He refused to criticize Pakistan when uh, the Pakistan army was attacking Bengalis in East Pakistan. He even when millions of traumatized Bengali refugees fled the Pakistan army, Kissinger was indignant at the Indians on June 3rd, 1971. According to Kissinger, the Indians were responsible for the refugee flow by sponsoring the Bengali insurgency covertly. While I agree that India did support the Bengali insurgency, the insurgency was not against civilians. Innocent people were not being killed. It was against the Pakistani military and was done in defense of the people of East Pakistan who were being discriminated against and harassed and assaulted and oppressed by the West Pakistani government. It was a movement for freedom. It was not a terroristic movement. And yeah, he was racist towards Indians. He condemned Indians as a whole, his voice oozing with contempt. They are a scavenging people. Nice thing to word to use by Kissinger, somebody who literally made his career out of dead bodies. And he does, however, say that he is glad that Indians are pacifists, otherwise, our neighbors would be worried. That way, he's right, we are pacifists. And I'm glad that when India tested a nuclear bomb, that he took a pragmatic approach and strongly rejected the State Department's proposal for a critical statement, saying the department's proposal represented a self-serving and self-promoting tendency that amounted to breastfeeding. And his attitude changed towards India, and he said that by 2008 that he recognized that India has parallel objectives to the United States and called on India to be an ally of the US. And now often he has met Prime Minister Modi and has spoken with him. In fact, when Prime Minister Modi was in the US on an official state visit in June this year, Kissinger traveled to Washington to listen to him address a luncheon at the State Department, jointly hosted by Vice President Kamala Harris and Secretary of State Antony Blinken.